Hello everyone and welcome to a very special edition of On Campus, here at the Solano College Sports Network TV studio. My name is Nathaniel Thomas and I'm very honored to be joined by Chris DeGuzman. Chris is a deaf student here at Solano College and he'll be accompanied by two of his interpreters. Chris, my first question for you is, can you please tell us a little bit more about your condition? I know you mentioned that you were diagnosed very young. And can you tell us about your experiences growing up?
Yeah, when I immigrated here with my family to the U.S., we didn't know that I was deaf. My grandmother and my grandfather were there, and they would try to call my name, and I wouldn't respond. I would keep playing. And so after a while, they felt like something was going on. So my family brought me to the doctor and explained that I was not responding to language. And of course, my family was concerned and worried. So the doctors had to take a look at what was going on with me to see what my life would look like as I grew up. They didn't realize it at the time, but I was deaf. And of course, as a child, I didn't know that either. They shared these stories with me later when I grew up to explain how I was diagnosed and to help me understand what was going on when I was diagnosed when I moved here when I was 2.
Every child's relationship with their parents is going to be very unique. They all come with their own struggles. How would you say that your condition has impacted your relationship with your parents for, the communication, but also the good parts? I'm sure they've given you a lot of support as well when you're growing up.
It was hard. I have a good family, I have good parents, but it was hard to communicate with them because they don't sign. And it wasn't until I was 8 or 9 I was able to write rudimentary at a rudimentary level, and so I wasn't able to write with them very much until then. So at home we would use gestures and I would use visual cues to see what my parents wanted to do by pointing. Back then we didn't have an iPhone, so you would just gesture. We didn't have GPS, so I would gesture, right or left or straight forward or where to go, things like that. And so by using gestures, and also I'm very visual too, I would get visual cues, and that's how we communicated when I was growing up.
That makes sense. Your parents immigrated from the Philippines, you had mentioned. They keep the culture alive by cooking a lot of Filipino food. How do you request your favorite meals? Is there a way that you would ask for it before when you were younger?
I don't know. I can't remember. I missed a lot when I was young, but most of my family, they mostly cook American food. And it wasn't until later when I went to the Philippines and I saw the culture and I saw how they cooked the food that it connected for me. I never really asked my parents for a particular food. We ate a variety at home, but I understood more deeply my culture when I saw what was happening in the Philippines, and I compared it to my American experience. It's completely different.
Can you tell us a little bit more about those differences between the Philippine culture and American culture that you were able to observe?
It's funny, but American food had a lot of grease. In Philippines, there wasn't as much grease. It was, just kept to a minimum, and there was a small amount of food. Here in America, it's very greasy, and just the tastes and the flavors are different. If you only come here for the first time, it probably tastes weird, but when you grow up eating it, I guess it's normal.
When you went to the Philippines, did you encounter anyone who was able to sign?
No, I didn't meet any deaf people when I was there, but I have met Filipinos who are deaf here in the States who have lived there and immigrated here, but when I went to visit, I didn't see any deaf people there at the time. But there's a lot of Filipino deaf people here in the States. I just didn't happen to not see the deaf Filipinos there while I was visiting.
You mentioned that you were part of the Bay Area Asian Deaf Association.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the work that they do and your involvement with them?
Yeah, they do events. They celebrate Lunar New Year, and they have a lot of different events throughout the year to celebrate the cultures. They'll post events and folks come in, even from other cultures who haven't learned, they'll celebrate a particular Asian culture versus another, and everyone comes in and celebrates it. But the one thing that we have in common is that we're all deaf and we're all hanging out, and we meet new faces and we're learning things, make new friends at their events. I recently went to one in February for their lunar celebration, and so I got to meet a lot of new folks, and I really enjoyed myself. It was a great time.
I'm sure the sense of community is a great feeling to have, especially when you all have that shared commonality. Can you tell us a little bit more about the culture between within the community? Maybe are there jokes that you're able to tell, that you're able to sign? How does humor and stuff like that work, storytelling?
Oh yeah, deaf people definitely have jokes. And when you're in an event too, we put the phones away and we're just signing constantly the whole time. We're always, having a good time, having fun, and sometimes it's nice to see folks again and catch up on what they're doing. Sometimes school is so busy that you don't get a chance to connect with people, so it's a good place to catch up with people and see how people are doing in life.
Now, I hate to put you on the spot, but can you tell a joke for maybe some of our deaf viewers, or sign a joke?
A joke? I don't know. I don't know if I have any on hand that I can think of right now. I know I've seen plenty of deaf jokes, but I don't have any that I have at my fingertips to tell you right now.
Right. So yeah, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. But how about, I asked you earlier, can you show maybe a demonstration of the 5 most basic, most important signs that anybody should know?
Sure. Thank you.
Mhm.
How are you? Maybe how to introduce yourself and give or spell your name.
Mm-hmm.
So that way, in case you encounter a deaf person, you can introduce yourself. Of course, you wouldn't sign really fast. Most people don't know it unless they grow up in a deaf family. But maybe just basic things like that. Hello, how are you? And my name is. You never know when you're going to meet a deaf person, at the mall or out and about. So that's some basic signs, so that way you can communicate.
And if someone was interested in learning ASL, would you have where would be the best place that they could learn?
Well, you can take ASL at the community college here, and they also have some online classes as well. I see students here on campus that are saying hello to me who've learned classes here. They'll come up and say hello, and I say, oh, how did you learn? And they'll tell me that they're taking classes here. So sometimes they'll see me signing and just approach me and say hello. A lot of students will come up and say hello to me and practice their sign language with me, which is really cool. People who can hear are taking ASL classes here.
When someone's learning sign language for the first time, can you notice or maybe tell us if maybe there's grammatical errors, or just like any language, where would the gaps in like fluency be?
Well, if they're just learning ASL and starting at the beginning, they're not going to sign very well. But if they stick with it, they'll get better and know more. I know I've met 2 students here at Solano Community College who came in, and we were in a class and they didn't know anything, and then a semester or 2 later I saw them again and they were signing with me. So yeah, they just pick it up.
when when people talk, we have voices that are high or low or fast or slow. When people sign, what kind of styles would you notice? Like, do you associate some friends with as being a fast signer and some friends are slow signers? Or if you tell us about the different styles of signing that unique individuals would have.
Yeah, it depends on the person. Some people, if they forget a lot, they might have to repeat themselves or they sign a little bit slower. And that's okay. And some people sign more smoothly. People sign differently. And that's okay. I can understand them clearly too.
You mentioned you like to travel and you travel for photography. When you travel to different areas, how does the region affect the way that people sign? I know you mentioned something about Seattle where they sign differently. Can you give us some more examples of that?
Oh,
Yeah, in Seattle. Yeah, Seattle, and at least the ones that I've seen there, they sign different. Also, that's very different, kind of quiet community. And the ASL that I've seen them use has some English influence. Here in California, it has a more strongly ASL, a strongly ASL focus, and I had to learn the difference between the two regions. Some of the signs are a little bit regional, and so some of the signs are not exactly the same. For example, when I was in Washington, they sign Halloween differently there than they do here. And so it's a sign that's based on a mask, but the way they sign is a little bit different. They sign the sign review a little bit differently than here in California, where they sign review with a single finger instead of a crossed finger. And so I had to adapt and change the way that I signed to fit the California style of signing.
When I want to increase my vocabulary, I read books. If you were to learn a new phrase or increase your vocabulary for signing, where exactly would you find the most rich source of information for that? Would you go to videos maybe, or is it really talking with other people and traveling?
I mean, there are books on ASL, but the internet has a lot of information. The classroom has a lot of good information too. And when I went to Ohlone College, there is a lot of online content they have, as well as a lot of in-person opportunity to talk with people.
Perfect. So, of course, I want to go back to photography. That's your current major, and I know that one of your finals is photographing a live model. Can you tell us a little bit about that class and what are you trying to get out of it?
Yeah, so I have my final project coming up, and it's supposed to be outdoor. I'm using a bottle, and I have to have studio lighting. So I'm going to have to set that up. I'm going to have two cultural dresses that I'm going to have the model wear. And last year's project that I had was a certain look, and I want to add on to that and kind of change it up and make it a little different. But I'm really looking forward to it. It's coming up. I'm working on the setup, and I have that planned.
And you mentioned that you wanted to start your own business afterwards in photography.
I do.
Would there be any specific fields of photography that you want to enter? I know you mentioned you like doing portraits, but would you ever venture out to doing other aspects like maybe live events or sports or any other of that sort?
I would really love, my number one goal would be to take family photos and to advertise and market through Instagram, etc. But once my studying is done, once I get my studies out of the way, I would like to get my information out there and market myself so that way I could work with people who can hear or who are deaf and grow my business from there, my photography business.
Okay, well, best of luck to you on that. I guess my last question for the day would be, how has Solano College helped you, how has it helped you get to where you want to be and reach your goals?
Yeah, they have helped me reach my goals. They've helped me improve my skill, my craft. They've helped me as a deaf person. If I need some help or support, the counselor's given me some resources. And also they gave me a lot of support in working on my application for transfer and explained how things work too. So financial aid, etc. I felt like the communication was really great. Working with interpreters, and I've worked on my communication too. I feel like they've really supported me to make sure that I have interpreters, that I have reasonable accommodation, and that I'm able to communicate in any area that I need.
Well, that's great. Well, we sincerely hope that Solano College continues to help you achieve your goals. I'm sure you'll go far with them. Thank you again for being here, and that's going to wrap up today's episode of On Campus. Again, my name is Nathaniel Thomas, and we'll see you next time.